Hello and welcome to video 4. This section deals with the fundamentals of your role during the running of a live stage. This section paves the way for dealing with people and incident management, which we'll cover later. We will also take a look at how the day will unfold for you, the marshal. As I'm sure you've noticed through the other training sections, we've very much focused on the management of risk. Rallying's got a lot of risk in it, there's no doubt about that. We can't get away from it. But a lot of the stuff that we've covered so far has focused on keeping the spectators safe. But what about keeping you safe, the marshal? The MSA say that they need you to keep yourself safe so that you can perform your role on the event. I would take that a step further and say, I would like you to stay safe so that you can go home from the event unscathed. Your personal safety means a lot more to me and the people that organise the Circuit of Ireland than the Circuit of Ireland itself. With that in mind, here's a few hints and tips from the MSA on how to keep yourself safe during the live stage. Rally cars can run wide on corners. This video's been doing the rounds for quite a while on YouTube, and it's pretty frightening. When you look at the top of that wall, you would have thought it would been a good place to stand. High ground we talk about, surely the cars would pass below that, but it wasn't the case. As a marshal, you might have picked that place. It's somewhere high that you could have stood. You could have viewed the road coming towards the junction and leaving the junction. You could have kept an eye on everyone, including the spectators and the competitors. So be very careful when you're selecting a place to stand. Rally cars cut across corners. Leave the road. Yeah, rally car leaving the road, well, that's nothing new, is it? It happens all the time. But if you as a marshal are standing against a wall or a telegraph pole or a gate, then there's no real escape route. Rally cars also throw up stones, which may not be such a big issue on the Circuit of Ireland considering it's a tarmac event. And rally cars can do what you least expect.
Here is Petter. And that, Julian, is not the way he wanted to start the day. That's a bizarre incident.
That's it, and he comes to a sudden halt against the electric pole, which is fall down.
Oh my word.
Okay, this guy didn't set out to cut the corner, but he did. And he kept the foot in the floor all the way through the vines. Imagine if you'd been marshalling there. And that's the downside of this sport. While we work really, really hard to risk assess and manage the risk, some things happen that are just beyond our control. In order to deal with those 5 points, the MSA has set out some key points in the form of a checklist. Do not stand in a position that you would not let a spectator stand in. Prohibited areas apply to you too, so don't stand in them. So it's not just in Galway that marshals stand where they shouldn't stand. It's amazing the points you pick up when you're driving a supercar or watching TV coverage. I'm sure this marshal had a perfectly good reason for standing there. Well, actually, I don't. It's too risky. You shouldn't be there. It sets a bad example and it's a risk to your life. Use your whistle to signify the approach of oncoming cars. Not only does the sound of the whistle warn spectators of oncoming cars, it also lets other marshals know that there's a rally car on its way. Read your marshal's instructions when you receive them. Identify how to summon assistance should you need to. Well, I've talked to you about having your mobile phone with you. There will be areas of some of the stages where there'll be no signal. I've also talked about having a radio that will be supplied by the stage commander. That may or may not be the case. So talk to your stage commander about how he would like you to communicate with them. Talk to the people at your junction and look closely at your notes and your plans so that you know exactly where your mandatory radio point is. Mandatory radio points are 5 kilometres apart, that's about 3 miles. Work out where your closest one is. And as I said, talk to other marshals around your location and work out a plan for how you're going to get messages to that mandatory radio if required. Wear your marshal's tabard at all times whilst on duty. The tabard, yes, we've mentioned that before. Wear it all day long. It's your mark of authority. Do not take photographs or video whilst on duty unless you're requested to do so as part of the management of an incident. The event needs you to concentrate fully on what is around you. A vehicle travelling towards you seems further away when viewed through a lens. Not only does it look unprofessional, it's quite dangerous. As the MSA have said, the car can look much further away than it is. When the schedule hasn't been completed at this stage, it'll be wrong to quote from it. We can give you a sort of a ballpark understanding of what's going to happen. Most stages will be run twice. That means you'll have a stage in the morning and the same stage repeated in the afternoon. There will be a small gap between those two stages, but the road will not reopen during that time. So in that gap, take the opportunity to grab some food, maybe even get to the loo. You also might need to repair some tape that's been torn down or replace some signs that have maybe been nicked. As you build towards the second loop starting, the entire train of safety vehicles will pass through your stage again. It will be just like they did the first time. As they travel through your stage for the second time on that day, they will be looking for the same level of safety and commitment from you guys on the ground. Don't get complacent. On the second run through, the safety officers will be having a good look at the stage and comparing to the plan just like the first time. They'll be looking at where spectators are and looking at how the junction's been set up, where tape is and where prohibited area signs are. So if a sign has been torn down or tape has been removed, make sure and get it back up again. It's very rare that the second run over a stage for a competitor is slower than the first time. They'll have honed and tuned their pace notes in the first run over the stage and they'll be quite buoyant and confident about improving their time. All that does for you is increase the risk. Each stage also breaks down into two halves. There's the internationals and the nationals. There will be a small gap between those two fields as well. This stage will not reopen in this gap. That gap will be filled with a supercar, most likely myself, the Deputy Clerk of the Course for the national event, Gary MacDonald and Kieran O'Neill, and a zero car. Depending on where you are in the stage, on the length of your stage, it may well be that the only car you'll see in that gap is a supercar. So after the supercar goes past, plan for the next car to be a competitor, whether it is or not. From time to time we have the need to move people into the stage, which means creating a gap for them. That might be carers or nurses or doctors, whatever it might be, to deal with the resident. During the PR, these things will be worked out, and if there is to be a movement of someone on your stage, you'll be made aware of it. If someone turns up at your junction and says that they've made an arrangement to get through the stage, don't chase them if you don't know about it. Try and get in touch with your stage commander to verify their position. It may well be that the movement was arranged late in the day and it wasn't added to your pack. Movements are normally planned for the gaps between stages or between events. Okay, so in summary, there's two main points. The first one being your personal safety. We need you guys to be safe while doing your job so that you can do your job, as the MSA said, and we also want you to go home in one piece. So think ahead, think about where cars might go and where you need to be safe. We've also briefly touched on how the day will unfold, and as you can see, it's quite a long day. But trust us, it will be enjoyable. Oh Lord, I'm alive, but I can't see. Everything's all blurry. Look at me good tape, it's an awful mess. Go on you boy, I'm fine. Ah, that's why my eyes roll blurry. I'd lost my glasses. Aye, that's better. When you look at him now, he's still going the wrong way. Go on, you boy, you. Reverse out. Break no more of my nice taping.